What's up, guys, and welcome to a discussion about the role system. What is a role system? Well, role system defines what an IGL, an opper, an entry, and a support and a lurk. It defines those 5 roles, 5 people on the team, one person does each of those things. Usually more suited for team environments rather than pugs, of course, but sometimes you can get away with it in a pug. But in a more structured team environment, one person is usually going to be doing one of those things in an ideal situation, and what these roles actually do are relatively self-explanatory. Oppers are going to op, so they're going to be sniping, staying in the back, and holding an angle. IGLs are usually the one with the most time spent playing, studying, or thinking about the game, as they likely have the most experience with the game. And those people are usually the ones that have enough experience to make the big picture decisions for the other 4 members of the team. Entries are good at opening up bomb sites or creating space for the rest of the team when the hit actually comes in. Those are their primary roles. It's not actually expected for entries to get more than 2 kills in like a really good scenario. Usually they'll come in, maybe get one, and then get traded out for the rest of the round. Supports are usually the ones that are following up off the initial attack. These people can figure out where people are based off the gunshots and where the entry is getting shot from, and then trade those kills relatively quickly. Supports are also usually the ones that know the most utility and have the most knowledge on situational utility, such as a random flash from this spot to that spot that you wouldn't normally throw given like a normal default round or a normal execute. Lyrics are usually the ones that are listening and have a good understanding of rotations and can abuse those rotations while also adapting to the opponent's team and how they play so that they can abuse that specific team's rotations. So is the role system a good system? Well, yes, but not really, but sort of. Roles can help players develop, fine-tune, and master certain skill sets. Although this is mainly in theory and not so much in practice, as players actually have to play in that sort of playstyle to actually get good at the playstyle, obviously. And more often than not, they're going to get pushed off of their playstyle, which I'll explain later. Now, being forced to play in a certain role or trying to grind out that role is easier for some roles than others. Obviously, being an IGL is pretty easy because, let's be real, no one in North America can IGL. Ooh, wait, I'm from NA, fuck. Oppers, I mean, you just have to pick up the op a lot, which is relatively easy to do. Lurk, entry, and support, you don't necessarily fill some super specialized role, so you can kind of do any of the 3 in a given round. So it might be a little harder to figure out how you should be playing. So in an ideal world, you can control who's the entry, support, and lurk, and I guess to a further extent IGL and opper. But realistically speaking, that can only really happen if you're throwing executes all the time rather than like defaulting or kind of spreading out and working for picks. In an execute, you can obviously control who goes in first, who's throwing what, so that they can very easily do a supportive role or an entry role or have some kind of good op angle. But when it comes to more spread out and less structured openings in your T-side rounds, it's a little harder to control who's entry, who's support, and so on, unless you actually end in an execute anyway. And that doesn't always happen. More often than not, you should probably be splitting because you'll have map control that allows you to do that anyway. So the real question is, how often can you run executes, or how often can you ensure that players are doing the role they are assigned to? And this is where my previous answer to is the role system a good system comes in. You technically could just do executes all the time, but any team that can remember their previous 4 or 5 rounds is going to catch on to the fact that you're going to end in an execute, whether you throw one right off the bat or you default for a little bit and then go into an execute. And stopping executes is pretty easy once you figure out where it's coming from. And you can figure out where it's coming from just by pushing one spot. And from there, you're going to run into like a 3 or 4 man stack, and that can really just ruin your team. However, if you're good enough to make it work anyway, then you can kind of develop these skill sets because you're better, but then you can't also develop your skill sets if you're better because you're better, and it's not like the skill set, and it's more of just like the aim and the mechanics, so it's like, not really. So yes, but not really, but sort of. The biggest reason I dislike the role system is the fact that you can't always have the person that is assigned a certain role do their role. And it's not necessarily the player's fault or one person's fault or the other, because there's a lot of unknown and missing information in every round of Counter-Strike because you don't always know what your opponents are doing at the start of the round. Finally, why I hate the role system so much, take the following two situations. Number one, it's 2v2. Your Opper and your IGL are alive in the 2v2 situation. Who's the entry in this scenario? Hint, it's not your entry, because he's dead. So one of these two people are going to have to entry, and that's not their role. One of them is a strat caller and one of them is an Opper. So you don't really, there's no point in having that role system because you can't really use it. Second situation, again, 2v2 situation. Your entry, who is designated entry, has full utility and is full HP. On the other hand, your support is low on HP and has no nades left. Who entries? Well, if the person with full nades is going in first, they're probably not using their nades, which is a really bad use of your nades. It's a waste of money. On the other hand, your support, who usually goes in second, doesn't really have the HP to make it worthwhile, so you want your support to go in first. But then if your support's going in first, what's the point of calling him support? He should be the entry. And in this situation, he should be the entry. Now, when you think about it, what's the point of having these roles if they're going to change on a round-by-round basis? In the two situations that I described, you're having two people that are assigned one role, but should be doing another role because of the situation of the round. And these types of rounds are going to be very common, especially in the kind of team environment that likes to default a lot and play very open style, a very loose style where they can each work some part of the map or look for a pick early, and less so in more structured and rigid team environments where your team has specific objectives. You need to do this, this, and this. You need to go here, throw this, and do that. In a more open system, this role system is not going to be as useful and is quite less important than how it might seem to be based on when you listen to like commentators and casters be like, oh, he's doing a good job of lurking, or like the entry frag got so many frags, or you know, like who cares about all that crap? Back in my day, you had to learn every role. There was no support, lurk, entry. You just go. Everyone goes and does their thing based on the situation of the round. And if you mess up, it's your fault. Okay, boomer. Anyway, thanks for watching, and like the video if you liked the video.